Senator Warner, this is an area where crypto is being used to finance terrorism, and we have to provide the tools necessary to stop that. In fact, earlier this year, I worked with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to add an amendment to the NDAA that would require examination standards for crypto asset intermediaries and request a report from FinCEN on mixers and tumblers, the way that information is scrambled to prevent detection. Furthermore, let's get after Binance and Tether. These are offshore companies that are financing illicit activities and terrorism.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Support this great content by hitting the cash app and by joining the Patreon.
And guys, you know I can't say what I want to say. I'm going to have to save it for Patreon this weekend. But we can clearly see where this is headed. We know the banks are the biggest what? I'll let you finish that. But we need to go after Tether and Binance. Guys, if we know they go after Tether and Binance, you can say goodbye to a lot of these cryptos. They're going to regulate 99% of these cryptos out the window. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now, us in crypto, we understand blockchain. And we know for a fact anyone who wants to do some illegal activity is not going to be going through blockchain. Don't get me wrong, the mixers, yes, it will keep your privacy, but the transaction is still on blockchain. Which one would I want to do? Use blockchain or mixer or use cash? If I'm doing illegal activity, guys, cash is king. But we know Senator Loomis and Elizabeth Warren are playing the Hegelian dialectic. So therefore, they can get to the NWO's goal. Remember, guys, it's all about taking away privacy, bringing in the digital ID, and then on top of it, the stable coins and CBDC. So then therefore, they'll be able to tell you what, where, and when and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it, or poof, it's gone. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
We've got to prevent Hamas, Hezbollah, and other terrorist organizations from using digital assets, using cryptocurrency as a means to finance their activities. So mixed in with the talk of stronger sanctions on Iran and other avenues to prevent the flow of illicit finance, we've heard a lot about crypto assets today. We should be hearing a lot about crypto assets today. I think it's because our panel is in part missing the perspective of FinCEN and the law enforcement agencies that are actively fighting the finance of terrorism. When we asked FinCEN and others what authorities they need to combat illicit finance and crypto assets, they say they don't need more laws, they need more resources. I've heard from law enforcement that in many ways crypto assets are more traceable than cash. In fact, we've had people testify under oath in this committee that crypto assets are easier to trace than cash because the data is permanently available for everyone to see on a distributed ledger. If you want to download on a computer the entire distributed ledger of Bitcoin, you can do it in your office. It'll take you, plug in a computer, sign on, take you about 100 hours. You can download the entire distributed ledger of Bitcoin from day one in 2009 currently, and it'll update every 10 minutes. It's remarkable, the information that's available there. So what we need to do is give FinCEN and our regulators the resources to carry out the mission. Now, we address this in the Responsible Financial Innovation Act that Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York and I have sponsored. It's a comprehensive framework for digital asset regulation. It provides these resources. As a starting point, it gives FinCEN $150 million to carry out its mission in regard to crypto assets and provides the flexibility to hire and retain highly qualified individuals. Now, let's turn for a minute to intermediaries like Binance and Tether. We know that Hamas and other terrorist groups have, on literally hundreds of occasions, been able to open accounts with Binance even after public reporting about the issue. Binance is knowingly facilitating violations of sanction laws and the Bank Secrecy Act by failing to carry out adequate customer screening when it is aware the exchange is being used to finance terrorism. It is also well known that Tether is a favored on and off ramp for illicit activities to interact with crypto asset markets and is knowingly facilitating violations of the law. It was recently reported that Israeli law enforcement directed Tether to freeze 32 addresses controlled by Hamas and Russian-linked entities in Israel and Ukraine. Tether is failing to conduct adequate consumer and customer due diligence and screening, despite being aware that its product is used to facilitate terrorism and other illicit activities. That's why today I sent a letter with Representative French Hill, who's the chairman of the House Digital Assets Subcommittee, to Attorney General Merrick Garland, asking the Department of Justice to wrap up its investigation and consider criminal charges against Binance and Tether for their involvement in illicit finance. And we now know, as Senator Haggerty noted, that the role of crypto assets in funding Hamas has been overstated. But even $1 going to support the recent heinous attacks is too much. Binance and Tether have knowingly been allowing terrorists to move funds using their unregulated exchanges. They're based in the Seychelles, in the Caymans, in the British Virgin Islands. It's time they're brought to justice. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that my letter to Attorney General Garland be entered into the record.
Objection, so ordered.
We've tried the status quo, where crypto asset intermediaries operate in an environment without clear paths to registration. As policymakers, we need to be making it more difficult to operate a crypto asset intermediary in the shadows offshore. But we also need to make it possible to operate a compliant exchange in the United States. By providing robust regulation, the United States can force bad actors out of the crypto asset space and ensure financial innovation can continue in our nation in a manner that does not allow illicit finance to occur.
7th, Hamas militants killed 1,400 people and took more than 200 hostages. So where do they get the money to outfit their fighters with guns and rockets and radios? I mean, after all, Hamas is already one of the world's most heavily sanctioned organizations. That means that the traditional channels for the global movement of money are largely closed off to them. Any money laundering rules that banks, gold traders, stockbrokers all follow make it hard to finance terrorism. But terrorists have found ways around those rules. One big one, crypto. Dr. Levitt, as a Treasury official, you saw firsthand how terrorists structure their transactions to evade detection. Recent reporting has suggested that Hamas and Islamic Jihad linked crypto wallets identified in seizure orders by the Israeli government received an estimated $134 million in 2.5 years leading up to the attacks. So here's my question. Do you think that government authorities know the full extent of all the crypto funds that Hamas and Islamic Jihad received over that time period?
By definition, they can't know all of the extent of it, but I do think that number is very likely exaggerated. It's happening. They're getting money through crypto. There's no question. But the experts who follow this closely think that number is inflated.
So you think that they don't know all of the transactions that are occurring? So there are more transactions that are just out there in the dark. And I take it no real way to estimate how big or how small they are?
because it's not anonymous, but you have to be able to put a long set of numbers to a person's name. And because of that, it can be complicated. Most of this is not ending up in an account of Hamas Incorporated or Islamic Jihad Incorporated. By definition, because this is still an emerging technology and we are all catching up with it, we are behind. I can't imagine anybody sitting in front of you and saying, yeah, we know the full scope of it.
Okay, fair enough. So the reason that conclusion is so important is because crypto industry players acknowledge that Hamas was financing itself through crypto, but they claim that the terrorist organization, and I'm going to quote them, stopped soliciting crypto donations because they were traceable. Now, obviously, the industry's claim is false. In fact, just last week, the head of Cyber Defense Division of Israel's National Cyber Defense Directorate said, and I quote, "In this period of war, cryptocurrency is a major issue for financing terror because there are no other options, and that the amount of crypto flowing to terrorist groups has, quote, super increased since the attack began." Now, Senator Marshall and I, along with 14 of our Senate colleagues, including Senator Cortez Masto, Senator Smith, and Senator Fetterman, right here on the Banking Committee, believe that Congress has talked about the threat of illicit crypto finance for long enough, and now it's time for Congress to act. We have a bill called the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act, which closes loopholes in our anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism financing, or AML-CFT rules, and cuts off terrorists and other criminals from using crypto to fund their illegal activities. Dr. Wagman, you were the Director General of the Israel Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing Prohibition Authority. Last year, you wrote that, quote, "In their attempt to avoid being traced, illegal actors have adopted ever more sophisticated cryptocurrency technologies, such as non-custodial wallets." You wrote that Hamas uses non-custodial wallets to evade detection. Do those wallets pose a particularly high risk of attracting terrorists and other very dangerous people?
Thank you for the question. It is important, perhaps if I may, just to refer to your earlier comments about the funding of Hamas. The major funding of Hamas, unfortunately, the current sanction regime is far from being sufficient, and most of its budget and funds are still going through the traditional channels. And I want to put that clear because crypto is a problem, but this is not the major problem, and we have to look, on other traditional channels like banking and exchanges and money exchanges and cash and so forth. So let's not forget that. Having said that, crypto, it is a technology like any other technology that could be used for legitimate and illegitimate purposes. We do see trends on both sides. As long as we are able to create a framework of compliance into those systems, we're able to create environments in which we could trust some of the transactions that are going there, even most of them, when the platform is compliant. Therefore, I think that it is really important to make sure going forward that we're creating those environments that we could actually inspect and put forward the relevant technologies to ensure compliance.
Okay, so I appreciate that. Okay, I'll be really quick. I just want to point out, you wrote that decentralized finance and peer-to-peer transactions between unhosted wallets are, quote, higher risk structures. 2 days ago, the Treasury Department wrote to lawmakers here, quote, "There are steps that Congress could take that would bolster Treasury's resources and authorities to combat both terrorist financing and mitigate illicit finance risks posed by virtual assets." Hamas is using crypto to help finance terrorism. Our current laws are inadequate. We have the power to choke off that lifeline, and I think that's what we should do.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, And then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Xrp, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team Save the Village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Team Save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Team goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.